Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, aims to provide general information and insights about dementia and related topics. The content shared is not intended to be medical advice or a substitute for professional medical or clinical guidance. The purpose or goal of this podcast series is to help inform and educate family members considering memory care for a loved one. With us, as always, is Elizabeth Thompson, Arrow Senior Living Regional Director of Memory Care. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Charlie?
I'm doing great. You know, I'm going to start out by asking you a question.
Okay.
Are you in good form today?
I think so.
All right. Yeah, you know, it seems like there are always a lot of questions, you know, especially around the topic of dementia. So today, we've selected 8 of the most common questions to answer on the subject.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm ready. I love it when our listeners ask questions.
All right. Okay. So let's get started with the basics. And this is the basic of the basics.
The basics of the basics.
What exactly is dementia?
Okay. Dementia is a general term for cognitive decline cognitive decline that is severe enough it interferes with your daily life, your everyday life. It affects memory, thinking, communication, social interaction. It's not a single disease, but a syndrome caused by various brain disorders, Alzheimer's disease being the most common, but we've talked about before, there's over 124 different types, but actually on a podcast today, I heard there's closer to 200.
Oh, my word.
Different types. Yeah.
Oh, my word. I hope we don't have to name them all at any given point.
There'd be no way.
That's a lot of different types.
Yeah.
Of course, as you'd mentioned, Alzheimer's, that's the one most people associate with dementia, and it is the most common, right?
Well, and I think for many years, they thought that was the only type.
Yeah. So our next question is regarding the early signs of dementia. So what should people look out for when it comes to the early stages?
So early signs, again, is memory loss that disrupts daily life, maybe a loss of sense of direction, you're unable to complete familiar tasks, getting lost in places that were always very common to you. I think we talked earlier about, getting in a car and driving and then all of a sudden being like, where am I going? Where am I supposed to be going? I don't remember. Time and place trouble, not knowing. And when I say time and place, like timeline confusion, like what year it is. Maybe all of a sudden you think that Ronald Reagan is president, even changes in judgment and mood and behavior can be early warning signs. If any of these symptoms appear, it is important for you to go to the doctor and get checked out. It could be that there's something else going on, but definitely warrants a doctor visit.
You understand that sometimes you'll even see a personality change as well.
Yeah.
So that's something to look out for too. So here's one that comes up a lot, and again, we've talked about it a lot, but still it continues to rise to the top. So how are dementia and Alzheimer's different?
So I like to explain it where dementia, is an umbrella term, and under that fall many different types. Another way to look at it, it's not the same as cancer by any means, but if someone says they have cancer, what type do they have? Colon, breast, bone,
blood.
Skin, blood. Yeah, there's all different types of cancers. There's all different types of dementia. So dementia is that umbrella term, and under that fall many different types. The most common types we hear about are Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, frontotemporal lobe, Lewy body. Those are all common dementias that we hear about quite often. They each have their own different progression and kind of where they start in the brain. So
they have those similarities, but they each have their own different symptoms as well as progression, don't they?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So how is dementia diagnosed? In other words, how do doctors determine if an individual even has dementia?
So it usually is looking at the big picture, a detailed medical history, physical and neurological exams, MRIs, CT scans, cognitive tests to assess memory and thinking abilities. Early diagnosis is key because that will help you in planning and accessing the different support and resources that are out there for you.
Mm-hmm. So when you say medical history, you're not necessarily just talking about the individual. You could be talking about family medical history, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That certainly, I would think, come into play, wouldn't it?
Yeah, especially after, we've got a podcast about genetics.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we just talked about that. That's what reminded me of that.
Yeah.
If something that runs in the family, that certainly might be an indicator that you could be a candidate for it as well. Yeah. So is dementia part of aging? Now this one comes up a lot too.
No, dementia is not a normal part of aging. While some memory changes are normal with age, just like vision changes and hearing changes, but dementia is not a normal part of aging. It's more serious of a decline, and it's also progressive. So it's going to continue to get worse over time and interfere with your daily ability to function.
So tell us about a cure. Tell us about this almighty cure for dementia. Is there a cure on the horizon?
Currently, there's no cure for most types of dementia, including Alzheimer's, but there are treatments out there that can help, and there are even treatments that will help slow the progression of the disease. However, this is where it's so important that you get an early diagnosis, because a lot of those medications won't help if you're already in mid to late stage of the disease. So research is ongoing. It's important to have a healthy lifestyle, exercise, eating well, good mental stimulation may help reduce your risk. But at this point in time, there is not a cure for dementia.
Okay, so there's no cure if we get it, but is there any way to ensure that we won't get dementia? Tell me about what can we do to prevent getting dementia?
I wish that there was a guaranteed way. Unfortunately, there's not a guaranteed way to prevent dementia. But research has shown that healthy habits can reduce your risk. We've talked about, managing your chronic conditions, like if you've got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, those things, if you're managing those well, if you're eating healthy and exercising, and even those social relationships, having joy, being happy, cognitive exercises and games, keeping your brain always active, maybe learning something new. Research does show that those can help lower your risk.
So it's one thing that I've heard you say before, which I think is important here. I've heard you say before that what's good for the brain, you say what's good for the heart is often good for the brain.
Yes.
Yeah, so very similar things. If you're doing well for your heart, you're also doing well for your brain as well.
And don't forget sleep. Sleep is so important. I'm struggling with that right now with my husband. He was diagnosed with sleep apnea, and he has tried, I don't know how many different masks, and he is just not able to sleep with them. And I'm like, you've got to figure this out, because not sleeping at night and stopping breathing in the middle of the night is not good for your brain.
Right. Yeah, it's dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
It's certainly something that has to be addressed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So finally, let's see. Can someone with dementia still find joy and purpose?
Absolutely. With the right support, individuals can. continue to experience joy, connection, positive engagement, social interactions, person-centered care, engaging activities, all of that with the right support is still very doable for people living with dementia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have some examples maybe you could share with us?
Yeah, I think it's interesting how many times people will move into a community and say, all my mom or all my dad does is just sit in front of the TV all day. And I'm afraid that they're going to decline rapidly. Well, if they continued on that path, they would. Mm-hmm. But then moving into a community where they have interaction and socialization with other people, they really start to thrive. And I don't think that we realize just how important those relationships are with other people until we actually see it. And it's amazing to me to see people living with dementia in a neighborhood at a dining room table that are talking to each other and smiling and laughing, and their conversation may not even make sense, but they're enjoying each other. And that's socialization. And that's so powerful.
They're enjoying the pleasure of each other's company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and that is joyful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Not unlike you and I enjoying each other's company.
Well, yeah.
at some point along the way.
At some point.
All right. So, Elizabeth, do you have any final thoughts or maybe even an additional question that you would like to add?
I would just like to say, please keep sending us your questions because we love to help find the answers for you. Even if we don't know them, we like doing the research to get those answers for everybody. So keep sending your questions. Absolutely.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you for providing easy to understand answers to the most common questions about dementia.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for being with me.
And thank you all for sharing your time with us. At Arrow Senior Living, we believe in the power of a chuckle, maintaining a childlike sense of wonder, and defending the dignity of others. Until next time, this is Charlie Johnson with Arrow's Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, wishing you fond memories filled with moments of joy. And remember, if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia.
You can find Thoughtful Connections, a memory care podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts.